Once again, Odin has called me from my eternal slumber, the 10th world, to slay his enemies, and I will continue to push them back no matter where they emerge from, building whatever I require to complete my task. Hello, it's Forge Tech here. I'm once again in Valheim, and with the upcoming patch, Earth and Home, I figured it's a good time to start looking into new beginner buildings. I'm personally planning on wiping my entire account, so to speak, of all my worlds and everything else, so that I get a fresh look at the patch all the way from the beginning. But I decided before that actually came out, I would do some little designing, so I'm going to show you one of my starter homes. It is designed up on stilts. Now, quick note, I have terraformed this area just to make it slightly easier to film, but it can be placed in any reasonably flat location. Even if it's in a little bit of water, it won't matter because the legs will take a little damage, but it only goes down to about 50%. Now, I have built this off of some rough photos of different Norse buildings. Since Valheim, as we know, is built off of the Norse mythology, I kind of started going and looking at some of their stuff so that it would look like something you would expect to see in the building with a little bit of tweaks based off of the world setting and just the game mechanics. Now, I've built this in survival and I plan to use it in survival, but for the sake of this video and time constraints, I'm in creative mode on my sandbox character. That way you won't have to watch me for 45 minutes cut down 1,000 trees so I can show you how it's built. Now, starting off, I've placed the fireplace close to the front of the door. Now, this gives me two reasons. I could really quickly run up, cook meat. For those that don't know, you can just walk up, place a cooking station, and then just cook some food. Now, this gives very easy access to it. It keeps the smoke out of your house in the most simple way possible. And it allows me an extra little bonus that it lights out the front yard a bit and also keeps away any type of creature. A lot of the creatures early game, like boars, the necks, and the dwarves don't like fire. As such, they'll kind of run up to this point here where it triggers the fire. If you look up in the top right corner, it says fire. That indicates it's close enough. Look at it right about here, then they'll just back away from it. Now, that gives me a little bit of extra defense that if I'm standing here cooking, I'll hear them run up behind me. Now, once again, this patch is coming. This is all subject to change. Any of these things could change. Now, as you can see, I've kind of curved the roof and design here. It has a big space here. A nice thing here is that because the fireplace is right there, you get this nice sleeping spot. It's very easy to access. The distance to the fire gives you the real easy rested bonus in here. Gives you nice comfort levels, lets you sleep at night. I got right here a little basic storage area. As you can see, there's quite a lot of room I have not filled in because it's all personal details. I've got my workbench I can repair with. I've got my little window here. Now, I'm going to show you actually how I built it. So, starting off, you're to start with, quite simply, a 1-meter pole. Then we just grab the wooden beam. Now, normally I'd have to drop this here workbench But once again, I'm in the sandbox mode of the game. I'm not going to do that. Y'all know to do it. So, once I place this here, I pop this one out. Now, the reason I do this, for some odd reason, these do not like when you put doors in them. It just will stop you. I guess it's pushing you up a little bit. But you start like this, then you just simply come back here. Now, these are good to about right about here. So you can get about 4. I just did that so you'd see. You get about 4 of these at a time before you actually put in supports. But I generally putting in supports every 2, just in case some sort of goblin or dwarf, should I say, comes running up just to mess with me. Now, for building purposes, I'm going to build it just a bit longer this time, showing you that this design is very easily modified. It's great if you're playing with friends. These little houses look great standing next to each other. Gives you that whole community roleplay vibe. And it's just really nice. It's relatively cheap. I'm normally able to build this within maybe half hour to an hour of getting a stone axe. I generally try to stick with the smaller undergrowth trees. They're a bit faster to cut down, and it generally gives me a more open area so they can't sneak up as easily on me. Now, once I got my structure in here, I just simply grab the half wall. Now, I do both of the sides first before doing the front and back, because it's just a little bit easier. Now, I normally build this stuff with just the stone equipment. You don't really need any bronze or iron weapons or tools. No advanced resources, just some wood and a little bit of stone. As you can see, it's still green, so it's pretty solidly designed. You could even put a little skirt around this of another half wall and even build a basement to it if you wanted to do that. As you can see, we're still in the green level of structural integrity here, so very solidly designed. If it gets some damage, it won't actually collapse in on you. I wouldn't risk it against a troll, per se, but against dwarves and necks and everything like that, it's plenty sturdy. By the time you're getting trolls showing up at your house, you've generally got some better tools and weapons, so it makes a really good early game. Another thing is, if you're running a little bit low on resources early on, you can just build this in sections, like these two here, and the roof, and then build this back end next. This way you can kind of expand out as you get the different crafting materials. For instance, I could have moved my crafting bench right here up front, then placed my storage area back here or along the wall. As you can see, with just the two here, I've already got it enclosed enough that I'm able to repair my equipment. Makes it really easy to construct since you can do it as kind of like a modular extension. You can also play a lot with the front and back to your own personal choice. For instance, I had these. It does give a little nice thing because, one, I've actually had to duck behind these to stop arrows and other things from hitting me. It gives you quick roof access if you need to get up here to look around. But I do it mostly just because I've seen a lot of the older Norse buildings have these kind of structural supports where they would put the entire log into the ground to kind of hold up the roof. So I just like it. You don't have to do it. It's just me. I think it looks pretty good even without them, but to each their own. As you see, they're really easy to install. They do add a little bit more support. As you can see, they're blue, meaning they're touching the ground. So if one of these breaks, the other is going to take over the slack. Now I'm going to do the back wall here. I generally go with a full wall before installing the window. This gives me a little bit of extra space to work with. It also works a little bit better with the third-person camera, because I would have to be down to here to see through if I continued the half wall there. There we go, we got our nice little window. Now, generally, I would kind of stage some extra materials at maybe like a rebuilt, one of those damaged houses that you find in the game. But since I'm doing it like this at this moment, I would have just placed a couple of chests down, brought wood over, then begin construction all in one hit. That way I didn't have to keep stopping and going back and forth. Another nice thing is, since a lot of this area here is taken up by these slope walls, you get a lot of room and space for much less materials. The half walls only cost 1 wood. Then you're going to build the roofs anyways to keep the building from rotting. So you're going to have to pay that cost anyways, and as you can see, it gives a nice bit of room. Then I generally start with a little wooden torch there. The resin's really easy to get. It doesn't add a lot of smoke to your house. I don't think it will add... I've tested a bunch of them in the house before, but as far as I can tell, there's no asphyxiation risk for having a few of them in there. So I wouldn't worry too much. But with this size building, you really only need 1 or 2, so not that worrisome. The front chimney is just really just a basic wall. I do this to keep the rain out of it. That way it burns a bit longer. They will go out if you do not put a roof over them during a storm. And as such, you'll be in a world of hurt since you won't be able to dry off easily. See, like for instance, right now I have the cold debuff, which would slow me down my stamina regeneration and other things. Now that I've got that, I can throw down the campfire. I could have thrown it down earlier, but this is a little bit simpler. Now, you can wall this off right here to make it look a little bit better. It also stops you from getting quite close enough to set yourself on fire by accident. But you don't have to do the entire walling off process. You can just put that right there. Now, I walked into the smoke, but generally, if you sit there and put 2 sidewalls here, this will stop the smoke from getting out of the front area where I'm cooking, and it will slide straight out of the small area here. Now, that gives me full access to the fire without having to worry about it, and as you can see, I've still got my nice fire bonus in here. I can just come in, throw down my bed. There's my spawn point, there's my sleep. Really quick, easy, little bit of resources. Also, as I said, very easily expandable. Once you've got this done, this is all you really need at the beginning of the game. You can easily put down your upgrade for your workbench there. You can just simply sit there and grab a half wall. I'm right here. Throw that down. Now, I use 1x1 floors just because I think it makes placement a bit easier. But you can also just use the 2x2. That's just personal preference. Another nice thing is, once again, you can just expand out as you have time and resources. You don't have to build this entire thing at once. Got a big storage area here. I can sit there and put some... Now, I can place them like this. I normally go with this way. Use this as my personal house. Because then I can place weapons and equipment up here and bulk materials down here. That way I know exactly what it is. It doesn't block any chest from being easily accessible. I get this nice window out that I can sit there and just look around, enjoy the game is really very nice scenery, especially around water, sunrises and things. So I just like to add little windows. I'm really curious to see the new blocks they add in, so I can kind of maybe make this window a little bit more uniform. But yeah, that is it. That is the basics of this nice little survival shelter. As you can see, it doesn't take a lot of time. Not hugely overly complicated. Looks really nice if you're playing with friends to have 2 or 3 of these. Have a nice little fishing village kind of vibe going on. Gives you that you're really in a world of Norse mythology rather than your simple square block house that a lot of people do. Also, you can sit there and expand it to a 2-story house. Build a basement underneath it. All sorts of things can be done with this. I hope you enjoyed that, and if you did, hit that like button and subscribe. I'm going to be, as Hearth and Home is released, building my own village and posting what it looks like every few in-game days. So you might be able to grab some ideas, and I'll be showing how I design and build each of the structures.